Economics, Unit 3 project. Supply and demand. And we are kicking it off with demand. Content, part 1, demand. So, the product I chose to discuss and analyze and talk about demand with is Mountain Dew Baja Blast. And so, the first and most important determinant of demand for a soda like Baja Blast is price. The price of Baja Blast is comparable and competitive in relation to other soda products sold in its size range of 591 milliliters, keeping the quantity demanded comparable to other products and similar substitutes. So the price determinant is good at keeping it competitive, keeping the quantity demanded comparable, so it's not falling too far behind other, its substitutes. And to go in more in depth a bit with the price of related products, we know because of the law of demand that if the price of related products increases, the demand for those products will fall, leading to an increase in demand for Baja Blast. Alternatively, we can whip out a graph here on the whiteboard to show this increase in demand for Baja Blast when another product's price increases. So, if we take, Coca-Cola, and we have our little graph here, and we say that the demand curve of Coke looks like just kind of something like that, with price on the y-axis, QD on the x-axis, and then the price shifts to the right, or it goes up. The price shifts up. What's gonna happen to the quantity demanded is it's gonna fall, right? So P goes up, QD drops. Little graph with our P, it's gonna be like high, sort of a lower QD value here. You can sort of see how that looks. And then what this will do for Baja Blast is that the quantity demanded will increase just as a reaction to the increase in price for Coca-Cola, right? So Baja Blast, assuming its quantity demanded, its demand curve also looks like this, right? We draw its graph. Even if the price is the same, it's gonna have shifted to the right. It's gonna be over here, even with nothing happening to the price. Quantity demand is still gonna rise. Moving on here, another important determinant of demand for a flavor-based product like Baja Blast is the household's tastes and preferences in a very literal sense. The issue with Baja Blast is that it tastes terrible, and hopefully it fits nobody's tastes and preferences. There are many substitute goods for Baja Blast, those being every other soda that exists. Baja Blast competes with them like the aforementioned price tag, but as well as brand recognition, with it being a Mountain Dew product and its artificial scarcity due to its limited retail releases. I'd say Baja Blast is a normal good because when people have a lot of disposable income, they're willing to spend it on non-essential items like sodas. If people didn't have a ton of money in their pockets, they're probably not gonna waste it on something like a bad soda. Like if I'm struggling, I have like $5 in my bank account, and I see this $259 soda, I'm gonna be like, no, get out of here. That's over half the amount of money I have. But if I have like $250, what's $250? And finally, Baja Blast is of course a complementary good with the rest of the Mountain Dew family. When Mountain Dew is popping off and it's appealing, people will be more interested in buying and trying its variants. to the next subject here. We have price controls, and my price control example is the Nixon shock, which were a series of price controls set by the U.S. President Richard Nixon in the 1970s. They were put in place to combat inflation and to protect the United States dollar from external interference. It froze prices and wages for 90 days, which allowed for prices to be lower than what the market/equilibrium price would have been. It suspended the U.S. dollar's convertibility to gold and put price ceilings on products, famously gasoline, which created huge lines and shortages at the pump. The price control was intended to benefit the United States' economy, which in turn would benefit all Americans. It was a short-term loss for a long-term gain type of plan. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot of benefits with these price controls. Inflation slowed for a bit, but then returned during the 3 years after the 90 days. It took another decade for the gas controls to be lifted. And then only then did gas return to equilibrium. The greatest issue that the price control had was that they were overall highly disruptive to the U.S. economy. In a free market economy like the United States', prices need to be able to fluctuate and be in flux, and putting a price control in place really shuts that whole system down that the economy lives on. The Nixon shock price controls didn't really yield any serious long-term advantages, much to the dismay of Nixon's legacy. In my opinion, the price controls were a clear negative. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but as we learned through this course, are highly disruptive for the producers and the consumers, and in this case, the consumers. I think it would have been more effective for the United States to try and ride out these economic struggles that they were in at the time and try to come out better than they were. But I also understand that if I'm in Richard Nixon's shoes, I would feel the need to do something to try and show the people that the president is taking action to try to help everybody. But above that, I do believe that oftentimes the best action is inaction, and the most effective move there would have been to not put the price controls in place. Alright, so my new product here that I have for the elasticity portion is a completely waterproof, sweatproof, anti-liquid-proof sunscreen that you only need to apply once a day and you will never get burned. It can be removed with soap and water in the bath or shower, or it will naturally dissolve after a 24-hour period, but you're going to be better off washing it off because sleeping on it with it on will be uncomfortable. When a product is elastic, that means that the change in one variable, price or quantity demanded, will greatly affect another, and when a product is inelastic, the inverse is true. My product is very inelastic because there is no other sunscreen comparable to mine. With some sunscreens, you need to reapply them multiple times a day and you'll still get burnt. Not mine. There are also 0 substitutes with the same quality and effectiveness as mine. It's incredibly durable, as previously stated, and in the summer, sunscreen is a necessity for most people, aka those who hate burns and skin cancer. My family buys a lot of sunscreen in the summer, making it a very important part of our buying, and with a product like this, we'd probably buy more. As far as the math is concerned, the product starts at P1 at $35, with a QD of 1,500 units per week, or just 1,500 for the purposes of this analysis here, during the spring and summer months, because no one buys sunscreen in the winter and fall. When the price rises, we've noticed through studying the market that when the price rises to $65, our quantity demanded only falls to 1,400 units, which, after I do the math, I'll tell you the elasticity value of this. So, with the math here, you see that the elasticity value of this product is 0.115, which is enormously inelastic, so really we should be selling at $65. But that's for the board to decide. I'm just the inventor. Anyway, understanding elasticity, which 0.115, that's almost perfect in elasticity. Perfect understanding elasticity is important because it tells us the most amount of money we can be making based on the price and quantity demanded. There comes a point where the high price keeps your revenue at its highest. So like you could be charging $100, people only buy 50, which is low, but $100 compensates and you're still making a lot of revenue. But if that price gets any higher, your quantity demanded gets too low. So if you're charging now like 60 and 40, charging $60, but you're only selling like 80, and you're not getting that 50, 100 that you had, and you're not maximizing the revenue. You're not making the most amount of money you possibly could be. And so that's what your elasticity tells you, basically. It's the wiggle room that you have to increase your price. So with that being said, I would like to thank cato.org/blog/unhappy for 40th anniversary Nixon wage price controls for being the source that I used for the Nixon price controls paragraph. Big thanks. Gotta cite your sources. I don't know anything about citing your sources through a voice, but I'm doing it here. That's my supply and demand Unit 3 video.